Okay. What's that? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Today we're going to start from the two dots on Chacham at base, 20b. It's, what is that, 10 lines from the top, approximately. 1, 2, 7, 8, 9 lines from the top. Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In this list of learning, we should have the base of Migdash immediately. And, so for Shleima, everyone that needs. Father, Naftali ben Menucha Bela. Okay. The Gemara starts out like this. I have a question. Yitzia Mao Shetoil B'Kiddush Yadayim B'Raglayim. If someone leaves the base of Migdash, now, actually, we're not talking about leaves here. We're talking about, the Gemara's going to say, we're talking about that the hands are leaving, not the, okay, right now the question is, anything that leaves the base of Migdash, anything that was consecrated in a holy vessel that leaves the courtyard becomes pasul, because it was called psul yotze. It went out from the area, so it becomes pasul. What happens if someone already washed his hands and then he goes out? Would that also make him pasul? Because it's as if it's as if he was in a vessel, or his hands were in a vessel because they were consecrated. Well, he could leave, but the question is, does he have to do kiddush yadayim raglayim when he comes back? So, if we go back to the machlekes that we had before between Rabbi and Reb Shimon ben Elazar regarding the night, where Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that at night it's not a problem, right? When it becomes day, you don't have to wash again. Rabbi says no, when it becomes day, you have to wash again. So if we go like Reb Shimon ben Elazar, I'm sorry, not Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Reb Elazar ben Shimon, right? He says Lina like pasla, that the night or staying overnight does not invalidate the hands. If you wash the hands in yesterday and you weren't Mesiach Das, in the morning you don't have to wash again. What's the reason? The lay parish. That's because you didn't separate from Avodah. You've been doing Avodah the whole time. Aval Yitzia, but if you leave the sanctuary, not the sanctuary, you leave the courtyard, the parish, then now you're separated from doing the Avodah. Asuche Mesach Daitei. You're Mesiach Das. You've been separated from the Avodah. You're outside the courtyard, so you have to wash again. Or perhaps given the Biyad Lachzor Lei Masach, or maybe 1 second, you could go back whenever you want. So maybe you're not Mesiach Das. Maybe it's not an automatic Hesach Das, like changing of thought or losing concentration. And therefore, you don't have to wash again. So the question is, if you go out of the courtyard, do you have to wash again? Tashema. If someone washes his hands and feet, and then the hands became tamei. Now, how would the hands become tamei? Hands become tamei if he touches pigul oinaisar. They contaminate the hands. They don't contaminate the body. So the rule is matbilan. You only have to put the hands you can dip them into water. You don't have to actually do that special washing with the hands on the feet and that whole thing. You just dip the hands in the water. Matbilan means to immerse them. But you don't need the kiddush. Yatsu, but if they went out, then hareya and b'kedushasan, and then they still retain their holiness. But 1 second. This is an answer to our question. If the hands go out, they remain holy. It says Yatsi Yadav Laikami Baila. No. Over there it's because he stuck his hands out of the window in the courtyard. He stuck his hands out of the doorway. Doesn't mean that he went out. He's still inside. He can be Baila, and what was our question? Is Yatsi Kol Gufay. if his entire body, if he walked out, not his hands went out. Hands went out. You're right. You don't have to wash again. What happens if he went out? So see how detailed this is. Tashma, come and listen. A kohen that did not wash his hands, didn't do. So what does he do? So he should wash his hands with the klisharis in the inside of the courtyard, special place where you're supposed to wash. Kiddush b'klisharis b'chutz. Let's say he did wash his hands and he used the klisharis, not the kiyar. He used the klisharis, another holy vessel, but it was outside of the sanctuary, outside not a sanctuary, it's outside of the courtyard. Or he used a regular mundane vessel and he used it inside the courtyard. Or he just dipped them in a mikveh. Meimara here is the term for a mikveh. It's water from a cave. And then he did the avodah. So what he's supposed to do is he's supposed to wash his hands inside. He didn't wash his hands inside. He washed his hands outside, or even with the klishar. So he washed his hands inside with the klichal, or he dipped his hands in a mikveh, and he does the service. It's possible.
Curious. How does he know? How do we know that his avodah is psula? In other words, is there a kind of mashgiach?
Maybe
So then why did they tell him before? It says, how do you wash your hands? And if no one knew about it, so how did he find out about it later? And if it is possible, what is the in other words, this time understand the technicality of when this happens, or how does he even know that it was like if he didn't know while he was doing it, why would he now find out?
Right.
He had a GoPro.
I think what the Gemara is doing is it's putting all the laws in place of if this would happen, if this would happen, if this would happen. Now, what you have to do is you have to set everything up to go smoothly. There should be a kohen that makes sure that everyone is washing and this and mashgiach.
They should have told him before he did it.
But each one of these things also has to have in place what happens if it doesn't, what happens if it misses it, and what happens. Mm-hmm. See, in the kashrus,
what happens if it misses? Who's going to catch it? So
that has to be in place also. What happens if he misses? Someone else has to make sure that what he does after.
So you're saying that someone only after you did the avodah?
Yeah. Here we're talking about that it was after it.
Oops, sorry, check it out.
Right.
Why won't they check it before he did it?
So,
they're already checking. In other words, what's the delay issue here? Like, how could he even come to become possible?
Yes, I think that together with everything in place, you also have, like, what happens if not? What happens if you forget Yalav Yavai? Well, there's someone bangs on the table that tells you to remind you for Yalav Yavai. Okay, what happens if you forget? There has to be a halacha about what happens if you forget.
So you're saying, so in other words, you're saying that
even though
there's not going to be someone necessarily on his toe because they would check him earlier. Elama, if he take his benol beneighbors there,
yeah,
I forgot. Okay, yeah. That's the halacha.
What happens if he's not sure? Then it would probably be another set of halachas of if it's a suffix deraisa, suffix derabanan, all the laws of suffix we're going to come in. Those are the complicated halachas of the sveikas. Those you use chazaka, you use raiv, you use. Okay, so now what the Gemara wants to do based on this is time. What's the reason why we said avodah psula is because the kiddush b'klisharis b'chutz, because he washed his hands. We're using a holy vessel outside of the courtyard. A kiddush b'fnim, but let's say he washed his hands inside the courtyard, liyatza, and then he went outside. Avodah kshera. Sounds like it would be good. The whole problem is because he washed his hands outside. But if he washed his hands inside and went outside, then that sounds like it would be good. So you see, that would be our answer. That if you go outside, it's not a problem. You don't have to wash again. It says, Dilma kiddush b'klisharis b'chutz hechidami. Maybe when we said over here that he washed his hands outside, so we're talking about a case, getting the apik yad of labar, the kiddush, that he stuck his hands outside. He's really inside. Stuck his hands outside and he washed his hands. And nevertheless, it's and even though he's inside, it's still invalid. Called gufay, but if his whole body went out after he washed properly, that would tibaylach. That would still be a question. We didn't say anything here. We had a different chiddush. Yeah, that's right. Good point. Sean's asking Josh. Let's say the person goes outside, but he leaves his hands inside. Or didn't even mention that question. Amalei Rav Zidler of Papa. So we're still looking for an answer to this question. What happens if a person leaves? Does he have to wash again? Tashima. If someone goes outside the wall of the Azara, is if there's a delay, if he's waiting outside, so then Tan Tefillah, then he has to go to the mikveh. If it's temporary, then Tan Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, he has to wash his hands again. Well, we're seeing now.
Said before, Kol Gufay.
What is saying? Kol Gufay?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, this is Kol Gufay. So then you'll see. So then he has to wash his hands. Okay, we have our proof. If you leave, you have to even temporarily. So you have to wash your hands. The Gemara says, Amalei, the Papa responds to Rav Zvid, you think you have an answer? We're not talking about when he went to the bathroom. Over there, he's talking about when he went to the bathroom, let's say the number 2 or number 1. So the Gemara says, 1 second, but that can't be, that's the pshat, because that Mishnah continues on and talks about that clearly. The Gemara says, anyone that goes to the bathroom, right, moves his bowels, he needs to go to the mikveh. Anyone that urinates, has to wash his hands and feet. So it says it clearly. You're telling me that when it says that he leaves, that's what it was talking about. But if you look further in that same paragraph, it says that that's another halacha. So obviously before we weren't talking about that. So it says Tani v'hadim mefarish. No. We were talking about that the whole time, using the bathroom. Only thing is, we didn't spell it out. So now we spell it out for what it's for. Okay. Tashma. We still don't have an answer. Para, when it comes to the paraduma, we're talking about over here, where's the paraduma done? It's on the Har Hazesim, right? So, it's called Har Mishcha. I think Har Mishcha means Har Hazesim, yeah. So, Reb Chia Bar Yosef Amar, Reb Chia Bar Yosef says, Mekadesh b'kli sharis b'fnim v'yotzei. You have to wash your hands inside the temple, and then you go out to the other mountain and you perform whatever the service is over there. Where would you wash your hands? Inside. And then you would go out. Hey, 1 second. You're washing your hands inside, and then you're going out, and you don't have to wash your hands again. See? You're allowed to leave and not wash your hands again. You can wash your hands outside. You can wash your hands even with a regular mundane vessel, even with just a earthenware pot. So we seem to have our answer that you're allowed to leave. Papa says, Shani No. Yeah, bring me a proof from the paraduma. Everything of the paraduma was outside. When you're going out, you're not Mesiach Das because you're going to do the paraduma, which was done outside. That's not a proof to things that are supposed to be done inside. Yachi. So if that's the case, Lamali the Mekadesh, then why does he have to wash his hands inside? What was that all about? It says, Ken Aveidas Aveida Pnim. It was supposed to be similar to the service that's done inside. So we do everything possible inside, and then we do outside, and then we go. Okay. We don't have an answer, and now we have a new question. They have another question. Now this type of tumma is when only the hands become tummy. Like we mentioned before, it's possible that the hands become tummy. What happens if the hands become tummy? Do you have to wash the hands? Do you have to wash the hands again? Or can you just do tvila? Can you just immerse them? Right? Do you need the special washing, or can you just do immerse? If we say yitzia leipasla, that leaving did not invalidate the hands. Why? The gabra chazi, because the person is still fit He's not tamei. Person's still fit to do the avodah, so therefore he's not mesiach das, right? He's still eligible to do the avodah. Aval hachad the gafar lechazi, but over here, where the person isn't fit to do the avodah until he immerses his hands, right? So then, he knows that right now he can't do the avodah, so he forgets about doing the avodah. So he's not careful with his hands, so he should really need to wash his hands again. Or maybe because he just has to dip his hands in the water, and then they'll become pure. So maybe he's going to be careful, and he's not going to be mesiach das because it's not a problem. It's so easy to go back to do the service, so maybe it's not mesiach das, and you don't have to wash the hands again properly. Tashema, come and listen. Let's say he washed his hands and the hands became tamei. See, simple. We learned this before. You just have to dip them, and it's not a problem. We may be even stricter. So yeah, wait for chulin. So chulin about why we wash. 6 months. No, yeah, something like that. How many days is 6 months? How many days are in 6 months? 180? Yeah, approximately. Okay. So we have our answer. The Gemara says, "Nitmu yadav loikami ba'ilan." We weren't laimi ba'ilan. Our question wasn't if the hands became tamei. Kimi ba'ilan nitmu kol gufay. We're talking about when the whole body became tamei. We're asking if you have to wash. When it says kol gufay, typically the ba'ilan haven't heard of shemesh. If his whole body became tamei, then he can't do the service anyway because he has to wait for nightfall. Right after you go to the mikveh, you have to wait for nightfall. That's what we were learning before. You have to have hair of shemesh. You don't always have to bring a carbon afterwards, but you have to have hair of shemesh to wait for the nightfall. It says, "Going to itmei samach l'shkia sachama." No. We're talking about it was right before shkia, and he became tamei. So big deal. He's going to go to the mikveh, but he doesn't have to wash his hands again because his hands are still pure because he was never mesach das. Now his hands doesn't mean that his hands are pure, but when it comes to that special thing that didn't take off the kiddush that he did before. Tashema. Come and listen. So, by the Kohen Gadol, every time he went to the mikveh, he washed his hands again. Here we're asking if you have to wash the hands again after the mikveh. Maybe for some reason that was a special halacha by the Kohen Gadol. Okay. So Tashema, come and listen. It says Para, come to the Para Aduma. We mentioned this before. Reb Chia bar Abiesi Yamar, Reb Chia bar Abiesi says Mekadesh, B'klisharis B'fnim V'yotze. He washes inside and then he goes outside and he does the service of the Para Aduma on the Mount of Olives. Rabbi Yochanan says Afila B'chutz. You can wash outside. Afila B'klichal. Even with a regular mundane vessel. Afila M'kiddush Shel Cheres. Even with a earthenware pot. Where it says, 1 second. So what's our proof now? In the para, what do? They make him tamei, remember? Why did they make him tamei? We'll see in a moment. But they make him tamei. And what we're seeing now is that even though they make him tamei, but he was already washed inside, and we don't have to worry about doing that special washing again. He just has to use the mikveh. Ditanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Mitamin hayu akayin aser fesapara matbilin aisay lahitim libin shal tzedukim sheyayim remur v'shem sheisinasas. Shma minale pasla b'tuma. What we're seeing now is that there was a machlekes between the tzedukim and the perushim, the rabbis and the Sadducees. The rabbi said that the person that does the paraduma is allowed to be tamei. It has to be tar, but he doesn't have to be past being a tfil yom. He can still be a tfil yom. Because we learned from the pasuk, it says v'taher. It says that it has to be pure. If it says, "Oh, you're telling me it has to be pure," it sounds like he was not pure before. So he's not pure before. It means that he's a tfil yom. And the Sadducees said no, he needs to be 100% pure. That means he even needs to wait for nightfall. So in order to to say that we're not going like the Sadducees, we said that we're going to use specifically someone that's at full yain, which means that they would make him tamei. And so they made him tamei, but he washed his hands inside, and now they're making him tamei. Means he doesn't have to wash again. He just has to use the mikveh. So he would go to the mikveh, and he doesn't have to do that special washing. So, Shema Mina, we see that the tumah doesn't invalidate the washing. When it says Shani Para Hayel the Tful Yaim Leipaslaba, the Para Adum is different. Since you can use a Tful Yaim, maybe you can also use someone that really needs to wash his hands again, but doesn't need to, but we're not going to make him wash his hands, right? But for another service, we would make him wash his hands again. Okay, so we don't have an answer. We can't prove it from the Para. Bailo. Where's the question? What about just dipping your hands into the kiyar? Dipping the hands and feet into the kiyar. Do you have to actually take the water out? Or can you just dip your hands and feet in? So, should we say that it says he should wash his hands mimenu, from it, but not in it, just from it? That means you have to take the water out. Maybe you can even dip your hands into the kiyar. So, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Yitzchak says Tashma. Come and listen. Aisha Tavov Meimar of Avad Avidasi Psula. Says that if you dip your hands in a mikveh, and then you do the service, that's not acceptable. You have to wash your hands from the kiyah. So why do we use a mikveh as an example? It says Hame Kiyar Dumya Meimara. But if he would have dipped his hands in the kiyar, similar to a mikveh, and done the service of Avidas Ksheira. Why do you have to go as far as finding another mikveh to dip your hands in and say that that's not valid? If it wouldn't be valid even in the kiyar, then you could have said dipping it in the kiyar is not valid. Why do you have to go so far to find the mikveh outside? So, Gemara says, like, your proof that you're telling me that the water of the kiyar going to be kosher is because you chose an example of the mikveh. Let me tell you something. We chose the example of the mikveh for a different reason, not to tell me that the kiyar itself would have been valid. We chose the example of the mikveh because shouldn't say that if your whole body can go into the mikveh and it's valid, so yada v'raglav like kolshkein. Should it not be a kal v'chaymer that you can put your hands in it? If the mikveh, which works for the whole body, for sure should work for the hands, right? So we don't say that. That's the chiddush of the mikveh, was that the kiyar would not work for the whole body, but maybe it would work for the hands. So we see now that really maybe the kiyar doesn't work for the hands either. So why did we choose a mikveh? Because there's a chiddush over there. I could have thought that the mikveh would have worked. Amar Abchir bar Yosef. I have a new halach here. What do you have in that chart?
And make all the second.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Dip the hands in the mikveh for most purposes, yeah.
Back.
Not for, there's more over here.
All the
Where do you get this from? Really?
Do you use ChatGPT? Same thing.
What is that?
The ChatGPT equivalent.
Very nice. Okay, so the next statement is like this. Make Amar Abchir bar Yosef. Make kiyar nefsalin lematirin kimatirin le'evarim ke'evarim. We learned about this before, but this gets just slightly more complex. We learned to Machlekes Rebbe and Rebbe Elazar bar Shimon. If the water becomes invalid in the kiyar, if a person has to wash his hands again in the morning, if he washed his hands already at night, does he have to rewash? That was like machlekes. Comes along Reb Chia Bar Yosef, and he says, the water of the kiyar that's in the kiyar, that does become invalid if it's left overnight. And actually, becomes invalid in two different stages. If you were washing your hands in order to do a matirin service. Matirin service means the service of the blood or the burning of the kaimetz or something like that. The final service, right? The main service, because it's matir, the sacrifice. It's the main part. Huh? That's the matir. So it's nifsal in the matirin kimatirin. Just like the matirin need to be brought by day, so too the water of the kiyar becomes invalid right when it becomes nightfall. So you would have to protect the water of the kiyar, you would have to immerse it back into the ground, right? Submerge it back into the ground. We're using the pulley. I don't know.
It's strong.
I don't know. But in
Like
California,
one Druin and like 5 other people.
in California, they outside the science museum, they had a jeep or like a pickup truck over there, with a bunch of pulleys. You pull a rope and you lift up the whole car.
No way. Physics is so.
You remember saying that?
Physics is so.
Why
So-
isn't the water also from ocean? You have to go to use water overnight. I mean, we used to always empty the hot water thing upstairs before people could use coffee. We used to run up there.
Really, yeah.
That's a later
So
decree. Yeah,
So no
that has to do
shvus.
with snakes and stuff. And
Oh,
other
so that's a
things.
shvus, and there's no shvus.
Yeah, that's not a.
Okay.
And also, no, okay, was that only for drinking? That could be for washing also, according to them. That's a later thing.
By
We're
the
talking
way-
about, is it invalid?
So many things.
So here was Rav Chisda divides this up. He says if he was washing his hands for matirin, then the water of the kiyar would become invalid by nightfall. But take a look at this. La'ivarim, if he's washing his hands to burn the limbs, then the water of the kiyar would only become invalid ke'ivarim, like the burning of the limbs, which only become invalid in the morning. So according to Reb Chia Bar Yosef, there's two stages where the water of the kiyar becomes invalid. You would have to submerge it before nightfall for one type of washing, and you would have to have it underwater, in the ground in the morning for another type of washing. Two separate times where it would become invalid for different types of washing.
There's a place in the base of Mikdash for the.
Yeah, it was like a little holder. Spring. No, the concentration had to do with the person washing. Now we're talking about the water.
Also mentioned like service, if you didn't stop from doing service.
No, we're talking about the water, not the person. The water in the utensil. Talking about when does the water in the utensil become invalid? So it depends what service the water was meant to be used for. So in a practical, if someone wants to wash his hands at night, in the middle of the night, because he wants to do the service the next day, yeah. So according to the opinion, that would hold that's allowed. But nevertheless, that opinion wouldn't allow it if that water was left at Shkia. Over Shkia, that water would have become invalid. But if he wants to wash his hands at night for the service of something that was at night, whether it's tonight or tomorrow night, so then that would be allowed because that water would only become invalid in the morning. If he wants to wash this, you follow? It's the water for what? It becomes much more complex. That was the opinion of Reb Chia Bar Yosef. Reb Chisda Amar, Afla Matirin Einif Salam Alabun Nashachar Kevar. Reb Chisda says, no, it's all simple. Everything, the water of the kiyar would only become invalid in the morning. Right? only in the morning. It had to be submerged before morning, and then you could lift it up in the morning, right? See how many you had to have it in the ground for 5 minutes or less. Just as it's becoming daybreak, put it in the ground, take it up, perfect. And what's the next opinion? Rabbi Yechanan Amar. Rabbi Yechanan says, Kier sheshaku shuvein maleo. Rabbi Yechanan says, once you put it down, then you don't lift it up again. Sounds like, according to Rabbi Yechanan, that if someone washed his hands before daybreak, during the day, then he can do the service at night. But we're not lifting up the kiyar for someone to wash their hands for something at night. You missed it. Right? There's no washing at night. I'm sorry? It was or it wasn't? Oh. Maybe. Lememra. This tells me that nami leichazi, that they're not going to lift it for things at night. That means that you can't use it for things at night. That means that we learned before two opinions. One opinion said that everything only becomes puzzle in the morning. The other opinion says no. It depends. For things that are done at night, according to Reb Chia, you could use it. You could wash at night. According to Rabbi Yechanan, it looks like not. It looks like you can't do that. Right? It looks like according to Rabbi Yechanan, you can't wash it at night. You can't wash at night. But the problem is that Rabasi says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan and in the name of Ilfa, who we had yesterday, right? Ilfa was Rabbi Yechanan's friend. There's no. If the kiyar wasn't submerged from the evening before, then you're allowed to use it, the kiyar, for the services that are done that night. But tomorrow, Eina Makadish. Remember, we had two translations for this? Two translations for Eina Makadish. One translation was that Eina Tzarech Makadish, right? You don't need to because you're already washed. And that would be the opinion of Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon. The other opinion that said that no, you're not allowed to wash. You're not allowed to use it. So 1 second. That was back on Chaf Amud Aleph. Yeah. Okay, so back to us. Our question now is that it seems that you're allowed to use it at night. So what does it mean that you don't lift it up at night, right? Once you submerge it, you don't lift it up. Nami de Kamar says you don't lift it up for the service of the day.
Until the day.
Right. So but for at night, it would be good. If you wanted to wash your hands, what would you be doing at night? What type of service at night? If you were offering the limbs, right? The limbs are allowed to be burnt at night. So 1 second, then Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef say the same thing. Rabbi Yechanan says that you can't use it. Or let's do the opposite. Let's say Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef says that you don't use it for the day things, but for the night things, it could still be used because the night doesn't invalidate that. Only the morning would invalidate that, right? Shkia wouldn't invalidate that. It would only be the Leisa Shachar would invalidate things for at night. So that means that Rabbi Yechanan and Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef are saying the same thing. So why do you tell me that there's three opinions here when there's really only two? Rabbi Yechanan agrees with Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef. Where it says that it could be Nayu Gzeira Shikur. Okay, now I want to read how they write this in your notes. Where now says that The difference between them, that means Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Bar Yosef, is whether there's a rabbinic preventative decree in regard to the kiyar submersion during the night. I have a nice note over here. The Gemara responds that its previous explanation of Rabbi Yochanan was misunderstood. When we said that Rabbi Yochanan forbids raising the kiyar so that its water does not become invalid for Dei Avodah, we did not mean that the water would become invalidated instantaneously due to its being out of the well at night, as Rabbi Bar Yosef maintains. No, that's not what we mean. Rather, Rabbi Yochanan agrees with Rabbi Chisda that the water does not become invalid even for daytime avodah until daybreak. Nevertheless, he forbids raising the kiyar as a preventative measure, lest the Kohen neglect to lower it again before dawn. Were this to occur, the water would become invalidated at daybreak, since the water was sanctified by entering into a temple vessel. Okay. It emerges that although Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Bar Yosef agree that the kiyar may not be raised during the night, the reasons are very different. Rabbi Bar Yosef maintains that the water would become invalidated by raising the kiyar, while Rabbi Yochanan maintains that the water raising the kiyar is merely a violation of a rabbinic decree. Except for this is a rabbinic decree.
That's only when you're asked.
Yeah.
When you can.
No, regular rabbinic decrees we don't have in the temple, but this is a decree that they made in the temple that they don't want you to forget. This
That
is
they could do.
okay. The Gemara says, okay, I may take it again. The Gemara says now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kiddush Yadav L'Tshuma Sadesha and L'Machar Ein Tzrichen L'Kaddish Kvar Kiddush Mitchila Savaida. That the person is allowed to wash in the middle of the night. He does wash in the middle of the night because he washes his hands for the Truma Sadeshan, so he doesn't have to wash again. It says Bishlam Rava the Mukim Lahi Kereba Lazarberb Shimon. What we could say is like this: that when Rabbi Yochanan said that a person washes his hands in the middle of the night and he doesn't have to wash again, we could say that that was the opinion of Rabbi Lazarberb Shimon, who says that he doesn't have to wash again. But over here, where we're saying that we leave it in the ground, that would be Hakarebi. That would be like the opinion of Rebbe that says you have to wash in the morning anyway. So we'd have to raise it up. El Abaya, the Mukam like Rebbe, but Abaya that said that was even following Rebbe. We're going back to what Daf was this, Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. Abaya said that was the opinion of Rebbe that says that it would become invalid. So that's the stricter one. So Kasha the Rebbe ad Rebbe. Then we would have a contradiction. Maishna Hasam the Mashkale, Maishna Chadle Mashkale. Why over there do they submerge it? And why over here do they not submerge it? My answer is the Masalik Levad the Mashkale. No, they have to get it back down into the ground before daybreak, but they still raise it up. They raise it up and put it back down. So it seems like we have a decree. We don't want to raise it in the middle of the night because we may miss the morning. But we're okay with raising it for a moment and putting it there. We just need it to be submerged for most of the night. What did he mean when he said that tomorrow you don't have to wash again? Why don't you have to wash again? This is to say, you don't have to wash again, even though you washed at night, and it's for the matirin. Matirin would mean for daytime services. And then that would be exactly what Rav Chisda held. Rav Chisda held that it only becomes invalid in the morning for everything. The Gemara says it could be nayu mitzvah shikua. The difference between them is Rav Chisda and Rabbi Yochanan is if there's a mitzvah to keep it in the ground. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you're supposed to keep it in the ground the whole night. Do they have a summary of this in the notes? Let me take a look at. Let me just look.
Here, we were talking yesterday, it doesn't seem like it has a top. They're immersing it in water.
Yeah.
It might have
So maybe it's fine, even though it does have a top.
How did they spill the tea?
on top.
What do you ask?
They had a well in the.
Well,
Yeah.
only
No, there was a well in the spring. the base of English.
Bucket.
No, I thought maybe when they fill, put it down in that,
Pennies in it,
wood don't
bushes.
fill to like, putting in a liquid.
Wish you well.
The Gemara has concluded that according to Rabbi Yochanan, the only reason the kiyar may not be raised is so that its water will not be invalidated at daybreak. Where it says, just to say that according to Rabbi Yochanan, its water remains fit for avodah even for the day. Then that comes out that's exactly Rabbi Chisda. Where it says the difference between the two. According to Rabbi Yochanan, the kiyar must be submerged the entire night. This is due to concern that otherwise the kiyar might not be submerged at daybreak. Rabbi Chisda, however, is not concerned with that possibility. He says the kiyar is allowed to be out of the well the entire night as long as it is submerged shortly before daybreak.
That's everything.
Okay, now just 1 second. Because this works the opposite direction. Okay. Now, Gemara says Meisvei. Meisvei, we have a question on what we just said, and the way we were explaining this. It says, Loi ha'yarayin ha'sayv le'shemin eskaila yad sheshemin kol shel eitz she'asa ben katan muchani lakiyar. We're talking about the person that was supposed to do the Trumas Hadeshen. We wouldn't see him, but we would hear the sound because he would raise the kiyar in order to wash his hands and get started on the Trumas Hadeshen. Trumas Hadeshen was removing the ashes from the coals that were there the entire night, and then you would place the ashes next to the temple.
Picture of
That's
the
all.
police.
Now, where's that from?
I don't know, I just.
Doesn't matter.
Search.
So,
Picture.
is there a cover on the kiyar?
Looks like that one.
I'm working.
Okay.
He's still designing it.
Switch it on.
These big takes away the weight.
Right. Well, it depends how you. Right. So, they wouldn't see him, but they would hear the sound of the pulley. And then they would say, it's time to wash our hands. Okay, because they would hear the sound. Now, my love, what's going on? The misalakle, that they would lift it up. And that was it.
It doesn't sound like lose.
Salaka means
It
to
doesn't
raise.
sound like
They would raise it.
say mala.
No,
Salak.
salak is in Aramaic means to raise. That means if they're raising it, that means that where was it? That must mean alma mashkale. It must have been in the ground. You told me, according to Rav Chisda, that you only needed to submerge it right before daybreak, but here we're seeing that it was submerged during the night. This was done before daybreak. It's Kasher and Rav Chisda. Chisda said that they would only lower it much later. So the Gemara says, "Lai the mashkale," talking about that after he washed his hands, he would then lower it down.
Can I just say here? Here the way he's translating Hebrew says, Kol hasilu v'ha'alat ha'kiyom minabo.
Yep.
That's
So siluk means to remove it. That's a
no. Siluk.
It's you're removing
No,
something.
he's using an
and
Aramaic term.
this is the Hebrew.
No, that's why the Aramaic of mistalik is someone that goes up. Sorry? Yeah. But now the Gemara is switching. It's saying it wasn't the sound of it coming up, it was the sound of it going down. So the Gemara says, was there a sound going down? To put it in the pit, you didn't need a pulley. You needed a pulley only to get it up. So the Gemara says, no, that's not true. It says, mashkale begilgala, that they used the pulley also to put it down. Okay, then everyone knew it to come. Okay, according to Rav Chizda, this is how we're going to explain it. Lishna achrina, another pshat, mashkale bechamarte. Chamarte also means with the pulley. Ki. Do you have the word key twice? Ki heched l'shnam makala, so that you should hear the sound. V'leisei, and they would come. The Gemara says, "Gvini kruz," but there was a guy by the name of Gvini that he would shout out and tell everyone, wake everyone up in the morning. It says, "Beitrei hakeri haviyavdi." He needed 2 alarms to make sure that the kainim v'sham meha yasi v'sham meha yasi. It was like the people that set 2 alarms.
Snooze.
Yeah, it doesn't say the snooze, but it says the 2 alarms.
All
Someone said about
personal information.
He said cruise.
the belt and suspended. It says if you need 2 things to. Okay.
So funny, it says Vini was the name of the original guy, and then everybody else was called by that name.
Yeah. Right.
Yo, Kavin.
He was Italian.
Yeah, then I died.
Gufa
He wouldn't have to wait.
had a lot of wives.
Was always, yeah.
Yanover?
Yeah.
Gufa, we learned before. Amar Gufa means we're going to go back to explain a statement that was said by an Amira.
The pulley has a little bit of a lock system as it goes. It makes a lot of noise. So it makes noise, yeah. So when you're lifting, it makes noise also.
Uh-huh.
The winch. Like a contractor.
I thought the noise was because it didn't have WD-40 on it. That was I thought. I thought it was squeaking. No?
Josh is talking about a winch. But it doesn't make noise.
Oh, you're talking about a winch. Okay. Amar Rab Yosef in Hebrew would be the same. It's Gufa. Amar Rab Yosef Rab Chanina Kol Kiyar She'im By Kedei Lakadesh Haba Kainim Imena Ein Makadshim By Shenemar Vrachs Mena Moshe Aaron Uvanav Geimer. We learned yesterday that any kiyar, if it doesn't have enough water in it to wash 4 people, so then you can't use it. That's what we learned. Wow, where do we know that from? Because it says Moshe, Aaron, and his sons will wash from it. Now Moshe and Aaron are 2, plus his sons are another 2. It's a total of 4. Where's the question? Kol kelim mekachim. You're allowed to wash from any kelim. Ben sheish b'em revius, ben shem revius. Whether it holds the revius, whether it doesn't hold the revius. As long as it's a holy vessel. It's a strong question. You told me now that you need to be able to wash 4 people. Amar Avada Baracha. Is that who it is? Amar Avada Barava. It's corrected over here. The Kaideach. It's Saichai. We're talking about that you're putting this vessel into the kiyar, and somehow, what is it like? This is being used to get the water out of the kiyar. How are they? How's he doing this?
Sounds like the spigots.
Like a spigot.
12 spigots.
It says where one bores a hole through the side of the kiyar and inserts the vessel into that hole. So therefore, since there's enough water in the kiyar for 4 kayanim, the water in the vessel, which serves as an extension of the kiyar, may be used. Okay, that's what we're learning. The Gemara says, "V'mimenu amarachmana," but it says that you're supposed to wash from the kiyar, not from this vessel. The Gemara says, "Yerchatzu," they shall wash. This extra pasuk is coming to teach me that you can use l'rabis klishar, so you can use other vessels as well. Yachi klichol nami, then maybe you should be allowed to use vessels that aren't holy. Amar Abaya klichol ematzas. That's impossible. Abaya says, "Mikal v'chaymer, mikanai." We can make a kal v'chaymer from the base of the kiyar. Ma kanei shenimshach mimeno eina mekadesh. Nimshach imai. Just like if the base of the kiyar, which was anointed together with the kiyar, and you can't use that for washing, for sure that you can't use a mundane vessel. It wasn't anointed with it. Even something that was anointed, you can't. So the kanaminolan, how do we know that you can't use the base? The Tanya was started in a Brisa Rabbi Yudaimer. By the way, what time is davening today? What time?
It's 6:45.
Okay, so
Baruch just told me. Baruch!
Scream louder.
what time? What time is davening? Ten to 7. Okay. So the Tanya was started in a Brisa. They do.
Yeah, but we,
Yeah, but because of the they normally do, but because of the Lulav and Esrog, they want to do the Lulav and Esrog after sunrise.
yeah.
So they're gonna start a little later.
Go to sleep.
So the Amida is
Close
going.
to it.
Oh, the Amida is gonna be before sunrise, and then the Lulav and Esrog will be after sunrise. At sunrise. Yeah. Is that what Rabbi Marlowe was? Is that what he ruled for this?
No, that's what we decided.
Okay. To do it.
What?
No, the.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's what.
So, but you can do if you do the first minion, then you get it. Also, the shaking at 7:17. So it depends on your your schedule. So it says, "Economy nolan." How do we know that you can't use the base for washing? The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda says, "Yachal yekani mekadesh kedech shakir mekadesh." Maybe the base could be used for washing, just like the kiyar could be used for washing. Talmud Leimer vasisa kiyar necheshes v'kana necheshes. The kiyar is copper and the base is copper. The necheshes ikashtiv v'leila davar acher. The only comparison here is that they're both made out of copper, but not for anything else, which means that you can't use it for washing. It's not. The comparison is limited to just the copper. Okay. Amalei Marzutra Breder Rav Mari Ravina. So Marzutra says to Ravina, Malakane Shenasa L'Seichai, Temiklichol Shasa L'Seichai. The kana is not used to put things inside it. So that's why it can't be used. But if you have a regular vessel that you can put things inside it, maybe you can use it. Elamimeno Lemutiklichol. Rather, that we have an exclusion because it says you should wash from it. That exclusion is coming to exclude regular vessels, other mundane vessels. Yachi klisharis nami. Then why are you allowed to use a klisharis if it says mimenu? Mimenu means only from the kiyar. It says Rabbi Rachmana yerchatzu, but we have an inclusion. Inclusion says yerchatzu, they shall wash, which is coming to include other types of washing. Mari Isa, what made you say that this one yes and this one no? Maybe it should be including a klichal and excluding klisharis. It says etan mashicha kamayu. This one was anointed and that one wasn't anointed, so we're going to choose anointed one to be together with it. Okay. Let's take a look at the next Gemara. We have time, right?
All the time.
Yeah. Let's try to do this.
Time stands.
Amareish Lakish, Kalamashlim Lemei Mikvah, Mashlim Lemei Ki, or any water or any liquid that would be allowed to use to make a mikvah, 40 sa, any liquid that you could use to put in there. It's usually water, but let's say other things as well. There's a whole Mishnah that talks about what would increase the level of the mikveh and what won't. So that would also, right? That would also increase the level of the kiyar whatever those liquids are, that would also increase the level of kiyah to be the level, to be 4 kayanim, because you needed to have 4 the amount of 4 kayanims washing. However, the revius ain't a
I was just
mashlam.
thinking of that.
It filled it up with ice 3/4 of the way, so there really wasn't enough liquid.
Uh-huh.
And
It says the revius, when it
But
comes
you
to
still have to have
regular
enough water.
netilas yadayim, these liquids they don't work. They only work for a mikveh and they only work for the kiyah, but not for netilas. Right. Oh, I think the whole time. I think you always have the remaining 4, so it really would mean 5, I guess. Yeah, unless you know, does it say something in the notes? Shalom is asking. When it says the kiyah needs to have 4 people, does it need to have 4 people when you start or 4 people when you're done? It means you really need 5.
Ooh, it's ruined. Okay, another point for Shalom Druin.
So the Gemara says, "Lamutei mai, what are you coming to tell me that can't be used for?" Yeah, maybe it means 40. Maybe just like the mikveh always needs to have 40. Maybe it really means 5 kayanim. Okay, so it says, what are you coming to exclude? Lamutei mai, what would not be acceptable here? Ilim lamutei titanarok. If you're coming to exclude titanarok, means a type of mud that could be poured. It's like a loose mud that could be poured. What type of mud are we talking about? If it's the type of mud that a cow would bend over and drink from it, then that could be used even for if it's so loose that a cow would drink from it, then that could be used even for the revius, for regular netilas yadayim, regular washing. And we said that there was a difference here. And if a cow won't bow and drink from it, then it shouldn't even work for a mikveh. So what exactly are you telling me could be used for this, but not for that? Rather, we're talking about these like insects. It's red insects that they, like maggots. What do they call them over there? Did they have a word for it? The article says you have chushin. What is it?
midges.
Midges.
Midges. What is it?
Oh, really?
Sand flies. Very
That's the
good.
whole reason you came this morning,
Without wings.
just so you could
Just so
clarify
you
that.
could clarify that is why you were
Just
here
talk
at
about
this
this.
Take the
moment.
day off.
So the Gemara says it's coming to exclude Yavchushin Adumim. The Gemara says afilu beinayu nami. Then, if the whole mikveh is made from them, that would be acceptable. And we're saying that it was only acceptable to complete the mikveh. The Tanya of Shimon Gamliel kol shetchilas priyasim min hamayim matbilim bay. Anything that was originally made from water, and we're thinking that these flies they're like what's it called? Simultaneous generation.
Which isn't true. With the one with the maggots.
Yeah, the scientists tell you it's not true, but you don't have to believe them.
You don't have to believe it's science.
Yeah, come on.
Give me a
This is
Fake
worse here.
science.
Yeah, you know what well, why is it not true? How do they prove it? How did they prove it?
spontaneous
Yeah,
generation.
how did they disprove it? They took a
No, but they
No,
have
I'll
things
tell you.
have to come
He'll
from
tell you.
somewhere.
No, I'll tell you.
How
The
did
way
they
they
become?
disproved it
Well,
is because they did tests and they didn't find any spontaneous generation. That's a very unscientific way of.
Because it doesn't mean that.
Doesn't mean that there isn't. All it means is that they didn't find it. Every science textbook starts with this. First, it starts off with scientific method, and then they continue on with spontaneous generation, and the whole proof of the spontaneous disproves the scientific method, or the scientific disproves the scientific method. Yeah, like every science textbook has this like one flaw in it. chapter 1 self-contradictory. I'm not saying there is spontaneous generation. I'm just saying that not finding it doesn't mean that
I mean,
it
there's
is.
spontaneous generation from Yesh Me'ayin.
You throw your credentials that you used to teach science.
Hashem, if he wanted to create.
No. I'm saying even without that, just the fact that they didn't find it doesn't mean it doesn't
Rabbi
exist.
Smith used to teach
Oh, but
science.
that's true. You can do a scientific experiment 1,000 times and
Right.
not prove it, but you can do it once and disprove it.
Right.
That's kind of the same
Right.
reason.
Okay, so whatever the case is, that anything that's created from water could be used as a mikveh, right? V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi, matbilin be'einei shel dag. You're allowed to be toivel in the eye of a fish if it would be soft. Some days it looks like it's soft. So Amar Rav Papa, so Rav Papa says, what are we talking about over here? Lemutei nasan sa v'natal sa. What happens is there are certain things that if they're put into the mikveh, so
This is in the Mishnah there at the end. where
yeah.
we removed one, but put in.
we'll put it in another one. So the mikveh remains kosher, but for the revius it won't be. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Mikveh sheish be'em mem sa mechavanis. If there's exactly 40 sa in the mikveh, yeah. So nasan sa v'natal sa. If you put in a sa of something that would complete the mikveh, and then you take out a sa, let's say. Fruit juice. Is that an example that they give over there? They use fruit juice. They take out. They've added a saw of fruit juice. Yeah, fruit juice, and then they take out a saw of water. So it's still kosher. Remains kosher. Amar Rabbi Yehuda bar Shila, Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Rabbi Yechanan ad rubai. That can only go until the majority of the mikveh. But once you get 21 saw out, and when you have 19 saw of water left, 21 saw of fruit juice, that's finished. Amar of Papa, Kadach by Revius, Matbilim by Machtem Etzinoidus. If on the side of the mikveh you have an area where you like bored out a hole that contains Revius, so in it that water, even if that water is not mixed with the mikveh water, but still in that little area you can put in needles and other little forks, tweezers or something, other little utensils to be toivel them. You don't want to put them in the big mikveh. You could drop them and they'll get lost, especially if it's dark. Since it came from the kosher mikveh. Water of a mikveh is kosher for the kiyar. No, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Lememra the loy mayim chayim nenu. Mikveh, maybe it's not mayim chayim. The mikveh doesn't have to be mayim chayim, and you're telling me that the kiyar also doesn't have to be mayim chayim. V'atanya b'mayim v'lei b'yayin, b'mayim v'lei b'masig, b'mayim l'rabbi shar mayim, v'kal v'chem l'mei kiyar. Yeah, we learned that when someone goes to the tavel b'mayim, it says it's mayim means it's not wine. Mayim means it's not mixed with anything. And it's coming to include all other waters. Kal v'chaymer l'mekir. Now when it says kal v'chaymer l'mekir, my kal v'chaymer l'mekir, kal v'chaymer, that the mekir lav the mayim chayim ninu. Oh, it says over there that the innards of a sacrifice are washed with water. But there it says, not with something that's mixed with water. But you can use, it's when it says b'mayim, it's coming to include other waters that you're allowed to use. And for sure, you're allowed to use the mekir. Why is it saying for sure you can use the mekir? Because the mekir is mayim chayim. It says loy. No. The kaddish, the mekir was holy. The kadishe mal yusahu, is that an advantage if it's holy? Vatana Reb Shimon, Rabbi Shmuel, the Beis Shmuel, Mayim Shein Lem Shein Levai. you're supposed to have water that doesn't have a secondary name, any modifying name to it. Yatsu Mekiyar, Sheyesh Lam Shem Levai. But the Mekiyar has a modifying name to it. It's called Mekiyar. Alalav, the Ru'uyim LaMekiyar. What we mean is water that's fit to be the Mekiyar. Alma Ma'im Chaim Ninu. That means that Mekiyar was made from Ma'im Chaim. Ma'im Chaim means that it's living water, means that it comes from a spring. Gemara says Tanaihi. This is actually Machlekes Tanaim. Dam Rabbi Yochanan, Mekiyar. Yochanan says when it comes to Mekiyar, Yishmael says that it comes from a spring. And the Chum say no, it just comes from other waters, but it's not a spring. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Oh, yeah, it's just getting good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good. We're perfect.
So,
And then you come back
Pure
to
water.
We're on 22B.
The ceasefire in Israel just went into effect.
Oh, yeah?
All right, let's see, bring them boys home.
Okay. Have good news
Thank
from
you,
Eretz Yisrael.
thank you, good Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos, yeah.